Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and Peacemaker, Disturbing the Peace. That was a pretty good title. I like that. That was fairly creative. In fact, I pretty much liked everything about this comic book and more beyond the comic book. I know, weird thing. We're going to get into all that good stuff. First, credit where credit's due. That's one of the very few things I didn't like about this comic book is that credit was not given where credit is supposed to be due. Case in point, written by Garth Ennis. Yay. Art by Gary Brown. Yay. Colors by Lee Lowridge. Yay. Letters by Rob Steen. Hey. Cover by Juan Ferreira. Yay. Ferreira. Yeah. Anyway, variant covers, a bunch of stuff. All right. The problem is it doesn't bother saying who the creators were. Now, Peacemaker's not a character I'm overly familiar with. I know he's in the Suicide Squad movies, got his own TV show out currently, and I know that John Cena is playing the character, but I don't know anything about this freaking guy. From my understanding, looking at this stuff, February 1987 was the character's first appearance in the History of the DC Universe issue number 2. Strange that he would appear in a History of the DC Universe book before anything else. Here it says the creators are Joe Gill and Pat Boyette. I don't know how true that is, because I'm pretty darn sure that I'm friends with one of the creators on Facebook. But to be honest, I don't know. Who the hell knows? Anyway, excuse me. This was interesting. This was a one-off, apparently, and it's DC's Black Label. Weird cover. It's just a set of feet. I swear to God, I almost passed this by. But you look in the blood and it's like, oh, it makes a little bit more sense. This is supposed to be rated age 17 and above, and I fully understand why. This was a freaky type kind of comic book, man. I loved it, though. It's your typical Garth Ennis, the guy who, from my understanding, has never actually been to war, somehow gets war comics right, like every single time. Now, I've never had to work particularly close with the CIA when I was in the military. Never had to work with the CIA pretty much at all. They did try to recruit me because of my height. I'm 6'5", but aside from that, no, no, I had no real dealings with them. Anyway, basically, yeah, origin story. Here's freaking Peacemaker, sitting down and getting a psychological evaluation. I'm not entirely sure how everything worked with this. 48 pages or so, this comic book. 41 pages. I'm looking at the page count now. I'm not entirely sure how exactly all these different things happened, why the FBI left and whatnot, the surveillance. They were trying to get some more information on him. They were trying to dig a little bit more. I guess his level of clearance simply goes so much higher than what any of these guys are capable of. And clearly the psychologist here was an absolute patsy. And it shows that she really didn't do a lot of homework. I'm saying in this particular regard, because it's funny. Just by watching the trailers of the Suicide Squad movie, and that's it, just the Suicide Squad trailers, I knew that Peacemaker, weird though he is, would not hurt an innocent. I guess it's supposed to be like DC's answer to the Punisher or something to that effect, right? No matter how you cut it, I knew that she would be okay as long as she didn't do anything bad. He did mention some overdue library books. She freaked out a little bit, but then he laughed it off. At the same time, I know that I have 3 library books overdue, and I'm a little worried right now myself. But all things considered, this was a great origin story. The art in here was exactly what it needed to be. The story, it's Garth Ennis, the guy who did The Boys and so many other really great stories. Some really good Punisher stories, right? You're always going to be in good hands with Ennis. Absolutely. That sounded weird, but anyway, I genuinely love this. But I told you that this goes beyond the comic book, right? Since the Peacemaker comic book, or since the Peacemaker television series has already hit HBO Max, I'm sad that this is coming out a week later, week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever later. 10, 11, 12, 13 days later, so pretty much 2 weeks later. That being said, this was just really good. And it's decent timing. Again, it should have been out 2 weeks earlier, but really decent timing, all things considered. Somebody sees this show on HBO Max and they say, oh, let's go and, check out the comic book store and what's up. Now, if I had to make a solid complaint, it would be that HBO Max sucks. You just simply don't have nearly enough people on HBO Max. Even Crave TV here, it costs way too much to be bothered. I don't know anybody who has HBO Max or the equivalent here around me in Canada. It's too much, and they're not showing nearly enough. And and if there is something that you're interested in watching, you can watch it on Prime for just a little bit extra, a little bit of extra money from what you're already paying. So HBO Max really has to get their priorities in gear and not just have more original programming, but just have better shows available. Actually become comparable to a Netflix or something even close, right? Netflix is always the first thing I turn to, but then it would be Prime and then Disney Plus, and I think you can imagine some of the reasons why, right? With HBO Max, what's causing me to go there unless you're a Snyder Cut aficionado? You know what I'm saying? I don't think that there's too much other Zack Snyder stuff on there, right? That being said, I'm glad that they at least put out a comic book for something that you can watch on television now, for something that you could see in the movie theaters. And I know they put out some Peacemaker stuff back when the Suicide Squad movie came out. So fantastic idea. But that being said, it caused me to go and look on Comixology and just filter out and see only the DC stuff. And besides a lot of the old stuff that they're rehashing because it's Comixology, I love the idea that there is actually more stuff. That has always been my key complaint with DC. In fact, just last week, I bitched them out about, here. So I doubt that I doubt Marie Severin was taking a look at it. But my point is, DC actually is putting out more stuff. So it is a course correction I'd have to make from last week, and I don't know how much longer before that. But I haven't been reading a lot of DC. I haven't even been looking DC's way for a while, specifically because there's been a Batman overload. Whatever, it is what it is. Right now you got an Aquaman and Green Lantern or Green Arrow thing out. I might have to check that out. I think issue 2 just dropped or something like that. I might have to check that out. It looks like it could be interesting. There's this, of course. What else do they have available? They just have a lot of stuff available. Actually, I'm on the Marvel stuff right now. But, you get my gist, right? There's the vampire thing. There's, what's this? Oh, Deathstroke Inc. is out. I think that the Icon is it's the old stuff from Icon. We need some new stuff, damn it. Task Force Z is out. Teen Titans Wonder Girl is still out. I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving some of this stuff. I don't want to go into redundancy, but I will say, I think that DC is course correcting themselves a lot from the original rhetoric that they were offering. Oh, we're only going to be focusing on Batman, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, really good there, Jim Lee. I'm glad that you're in charge on paper, but nobody listens to you because derf. You're an absolute derp. Good artist, really great artist, but the business acumen of a fish stick, right? With the entrepreneurial ideas of a little side of tartar sauce. Absolutely horrible individual, and I don't think that he needs to be in that position that he's in. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that he's there. He's shown time and time again, evidently, he has no clue what he's doing, and he's just going to wind up hurting himself and others, including some of our favorite characters, by being in that position. But having Marie Severin here, having the new executive vice president, I can't remember his name, the Reebok guy or Adidas guy, whatever the heck he was, the Sports Authority guy, I think that that's a great idea. Also, I think that it's really helped to fix a lot of the problems that they were headed towards in regards to DC Comics. Only printing Batman stuff, only really focusing and pushing Batman stuff. I think that was just the worst, most ridiculous idea. There's a lot more stuff out right now, and it genuinely pleases me to see that because there are so many characters in the DC universe that we would love to see more of. and it looks like they're getting better writers to actually do them instead of just hiring, jokers and yokels off the street. Or I did a young adult book, so of course you should hire me to do a comic book because they're the same thing. No, they're not even remotely close to being the same thing, and that's evident in the idea that so many of these people have just failed miserably. Case in point, I just went and looked at what was it? One of the Batman comics. I'm not going to go and look at it now, but one of the Batman comics, I think it is currently being written by John Ridley. I'm going to need your guys' help on this. I think this is a third issue that he's been doing. Is it any good? Has John Ridley been doing it? Oh, no. It's the Black Panther. That's what it is. He's been doing the Black Panther comic book, issue number 3. If anybody's familiar with that, if anybody's been reading that, let me know. I don't know that I actually want to buy those 3 issues to see if it's any good. I saw something about terraforming Mars and meeting the Mars X-Men or something like that. I don't know that we need to see more Black Panther in space. I think Ta-Nehisi Coates killed that for me. But maybe that's just me. Anyway, you guys let me know if that's any good, please. Because I am curious. I'm a huge fan of Black Panther, but this is a DC thing. DC has basically unfucked itself. They've pulled their head out of their ass, and they seem to be working in a much more intelligent fashion, trying to put forth good comics using a variety of known comic book writers who are excellent at their craft and using a lot of their other characters besides just Batman and Batman. So this is exactly what I think that we needed. I think exactly what DC needed, and what's hopefully going to cause them to wind up making a whole lot more money also. It probably wouldn't hurt to have more people like James Gunn doing some of their stories. People who are actually fans. Sorry, with all due respect, Zack Snyder is not a fan of the DC universe, and I will argue that down to anybody who says otherwise. He's not a fan of the DC universe. He's a fan of himself and his self-flatulence. But making comic book movies based on the comic book characters, actually, no, he's completely incapable of doing that. But you need more people who are capable of doing that to put out more good movies and TV series that are going to allow for this to happen. We'll see what the Batman looks like. Personally, I'm not a fan of Robert Pattinson. I don't believe that the movie is going to be any good, but I look forward to being pleasantly surprised. I genuinely hope that's what's going to happen here. Like I said, this goes way beyond this comic book. And this is why. This is kind of like an eye-opening thing for me that I decided I'm just going to read this comic book. I'm going to buy the comic book. I'm going to see what's going on. Let's see what it's all about. And I was genuinely surprised to see how good this issue was. The art, fantastic. The writing, it's Garth Ennis. Hello. I really enjoyed this. And it fills me with a lot of hope that we're going to get more like this in the future with DC. I hope that, what is the name of that big event that DC does every year? They've done 2 of them so far. I hope that the third one is going to focus less on movies and nonsense and focus a whole hell of a lot more on the actual comics, the source material, the mainstay of the comic book industry. Because I remember a time when the comics were based off of comics, not based off of movies. And they weren't mostly focused on movies to make these things a big deal. No, it was more along the ideas just, let's make something good, make something memorable, make something that can fit between the pages of 2 gorgeous covers. Even if the back cover had an ad on it. It was usually still a good, gorgeous ad. Anyway, guys, that's going to be it for me. Enjoy. Definitely go out and grab this. I think you're going to... And of course, it changed the history of the character. But I mean, there's a character who was in the Vietnam War. You have to update that kind of a character. It's way too long ago and way too time specific, right? It has nothing to do with, was Vietnam bad or anything like that. That's not even addressed here. It's the idea that it would make the character way too old. So, a boomer, in effect. I don't think we need to see a bunch of freaking boomers running around being superheroes right now. But hey, you never know. Surprise me. I'll read it. I'll give it a shot. But I will talk to you guys later. Like the video and watch an ad. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.